So my grandmother raised me. My mother had schizophrenia. My dad was alcoholic at 18 years old. My mom, 20 years old, was diagnosed institutionalized. We were in church and she was talking about being a stripper. I have to take these steps whether I like it or not. And I think that to me is where you become that man. When you realize there are things that you're gonna do, whether you like it or not. And your feelings, they matter, but what matters is your responsibilities more than anything.
Hey, what's up, man? It's the Boy Man King podcast. It's your boy, Coach Crump, hosted by my boy, Chizzy.
My boy. What up? Listen.
And listen, hey, man, it's exciting because we got a special guest. Give it up for Mr. Great Day,
Mr.
Kevin
Great
Ferguson.
Day. Yes, sir.
What's going on?
What's up, Kev? Good to see you, man.
Sure.
Yeah, man. It's nice to have you. It's nice to have you on this Boy Man King podcast.
Yeah,
we started a great conversation earlier. We had to pause it for a little bit so we can get into the nitty gritty. We're going to start it out, man. Tell us about growing up in Chi-Town, Chicago. What was it like for you as a kid growing up in Chicago?
So I have I got a different perspective, and that's because I started off south side of Chicago, born 95th Street, taught the Wild Hundreds, 100th Street of Chicago, one of the worst areas that you could grow up in. Okay. But as a young boy, my grandmother understood what I was growing up in and moved me out to the suburbs. So I'm in the suburbs with people who have it. But it's blue collar, so they're still going to work. So I have this blue collar, but we made it perspective. But my dad, my aunties, my uncles, everybody lived in the heart of the mess. And so weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm flipping on mattresses in the garbage can, cracking open the fire hydrant, going to the candy house where you got the Fruities, a couple of roaches, and then you have, saying the Boston baked beans, $1 get you a whole thing. And then I go out to the suburbs on the weekend, play on the baseball team, and go to the baseball house where they have hot dogs and nachos and things like that. And so the perspective of Chicago, completely different for me because I saw the demons of the wealth gap, and then I saw the blue collar people and the mind shift that they had, where I could leave my bike out on the front lawn, and tomorrow wake up and it's just wet, so you have to wipe your seat off, hop on it and go. And then I saw my grandmother pull up to my auntie's house. We go inside, we come out after having dinner, and there's no hubcaps in the car. And so I saw that growing up. So I had a really good perspective of like night and day.
So of course that's a men perspective right now. In terms of, as a kid, did you have this cognizance that, what's good? Weekends I'm here, weekdays, like as a kid, can you remember as a kid feeling that separation? Because the reflection now as a man could be quite different from when you was a kid and what you was experiencing.
As a kid, I could clearly tell. And my daughter's somebody who showed me how much more kids ingest than we do. What we do is we make a child's mind a lot, it's immature, but we also think that they're not pulling in as much as they're pulling in. So a little bit, my daughter started reading at 16 months. And when she started reading at 16 months, some of the things that she used to say, we had no idea that her brain was processing like that. So to answer your question directly, yes, as a young person, I could tell that I was in a lower end neighborhood versus what we would consider a higher end neighborhood or just a more solid neighborhood. You could feel the difference. The community was different. You get out of the car and it's like, hey, hi. You drive down the street and everybody waves, right? You walk down the street, everybody looks you in the eye and say hi. You go to the harder neighborhoods, people look you straight in your eye and keep on going, and then they turn back and look. And it's a hard feel. So you can feel it. And I feel like kids, we may not intelligently know, but what you do is you feel it. You can feel the energy of a person.
That's good because I remember, I never forget, my mom used to work at Kent Meters in Florida, and I was 5. And I never forget, man, and it's weird, I think I was 4 or 5, but my sister was bringing me to her job and explaining who I was. And it was like, that's your brother? She said, yeah, it's my adopted brother. And I'm 5 years old, and I instantly felt I'm not belong. I instantly felt I was different. At 4 and 5 years old, I didn't know what it meant. But I said, who says oh, who else explain their brother and their sister? Like, that's my adopted brother. Mm-hmm. So when you say that, kids feel Like even at the ages of 4 and 5,
Yep.
I know when I'm not welcome. I know
Sure.
when I'm
You
not
can
belong. I know something's different. I know I have to respond differently. I know you know what I mean? Like I'm processing that, but it's crazy that that you when you was talking and sharing, it's like, yeah, I was processing, I was receiving, and I was feeling. I just maybe didn't have the complete articulation
Right, yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And that's what we download. And I would say that the child's mind is like an open computer. And so it's downloading things. And if you ever click an email and don't know you got a virus, I liken that to the neighborhood unsaid things. There's a virus opening up and you don't know, but it's downloading and processing in there. And sometimes that virus sits until what? Till you click the right
click it,
thing.
yeah,
So I hit 17, click. Boom. Now everything that processed from 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, 13, 15, boom, now it jumps out. And so that's how I look at that. So when they're taking in that energy and stuff that we don't really know, they're quiet, but it's that virus just popping in there and it's just sitting dormant, waiting until the right trigger to pull it out.
So what was family life like for you as a kid in middle school, you know, in grade school? Because you spoke about, you know, I think going to grandma's house during the weekends, and during the weekday, you was with your parents, I'm assuming?
So my grandmother raised me. My mother had schizophrenia. My dad was alcoholic at 18 years old. My mom, 20 years old, was diagnosed institutionalized. So I was 2, but I was 3 years old out with my grandmother. And you know, I lived with my grandmother all the way until I got her a condo when I was 38 years old. So I lived with her all of that time. So family life for me was, I had the benefit of a mature household. We didn't argue, fuss, or fight. My grandmother was 50 years old when she picked me up. So we're sitting, we're talking. You know how old people just talk. So I'm accustomed to just sitting down, listening, and so on and so forth. So when I would go to my aunt's house, that would be over the weekends. And that's because I have a sister, but she was by another man. So I have a half sister. And she was in a different place. So I would go to my aunt's because she was trying to give me socialization, like socialize with your cousins and things like that. So that's what I mean by we would be out in the suburbs and I would go back to my aunt's house and deal like that. So family life for me was really solid. It was just me and my grandmother and cleaning, like old school, like toothbrush to clean out the grout lines type of deals. And I would go to my cousin's house and they playing Nintendo. And they're younger than me. You know, they're playing Nintendo, got go-karts and doing things like that, you know, the Super Soakers and all of that stuff. And I'm sitting there. And so I was always forced to kind of become the more adult child. So that was just kind of how I lived.
How did things, so where are you with your mom?
What do you mean by where am I?
So you mentioned your mom got institutionalized at 23?
No. Oh, at 20 years old.
At 20 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, what's your relationship like? So, how does that work?
So I said the other day, the emotional part about it is that the one good thing is that I was able to grow up and experience the most genuine form of love, because she does not have the mental capability to experience any of these other things. So you know how you grow up with your mom and then your mom like kind of disciplines you and then you have resentment, or your mom maybe resents some things that you did, or your dad left, so you get these things. My mom doesn't have the capability to have those emotions. She can, but they were never projected onto me. So the only experience I have with my mom is, as much as mentally she's not there, she's gonna get me a gift, call on me, check on me, do those things. My relationship with my mom is that she's been institutionalized. So at 7 years old, I would go visit my mom and she would come out from behind a big glass door and I would sit there and have about an hour, almost like jail. But the difference is that instead of it being union of, oh, I miss you so much, it's just you kind of sitting there and she'll have a conversation with you and then she'll start talking to something and you don't know. And I knew as a young person that she was talking to somebody who wasn't there, and people kind of look, and we could take her out, and we take her out, we'd be at a restaurant and then she might be just kind of talking to herself, and then you'd be like, Mom, what? You know, she'd say, what to you? Who you talking to? Nobody, you know, but I knew, and I think my grandmother, I have to say I think because I don't know for certain, but I think my grandmother kind of let me know that there was a problem that was going on, and it was just, that's what it was. And because it was so young, there was never any trauma that I know of, because my experience with my mom was a mom who this is how she was.
Sure.
And
So it's normalized
it's
at a young
very
age.
normal,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's that. And so I don't have any ill emotions, ill feelings. Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing because my mom is part of my humor. It's just a great time all the time when it's with you because she's gonna talk about something that she's not supposed to, but that's because she'll know no better.
Right,
And so she's gonna talk about one day we were in church and she was talking about being a stripper. We in church. She's like, hey, Calvin, I'm being a stripper at the Pussycat Lounge. Sliding down the pool in church. So you see what I mean? This is my experience.
Okay.
And so and this is my mom. And so I'm just cracking up because it's silly. And then my grandmother, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
Nothing. So it was kind of like, it was really good experiences. And I give that to my grandmother because my grandmother provided an environment to where it wasn't traumatic.
Yeah, that's amazing,
and so
man.
She did a great job.
So did that kind of, that dynamic, did it always made you feel like you were somewhat a parent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To your own mom?
To my mom, to my dad.
Okay.
And then at 13 or 14, to my grandmother, to my grandfather, to my cousin. Because I was with him on the weekends in the summertime, to my 3 younger cousins. So if I have anything in there that, we talk about boy, man, king, realizing it as a man and then dealing with it is what's necessary to move to a king in that.
Sure.
And I can say that aspect of me is where I am, just still maybe a man and maybe even just a man child. Because I don't know that I've dealt with it, but I'm realizing it now.
Yeah,
Right,
that's what I was going to ask. It's like, okay, you was taken away from your biological parents, then your grandmother's raising you, then there's a disconnect emotionally from your mother. Even when you go visit her, you realize low key, I'm parenting her. Then I'm parenting my grandparents. As a teenager, it's like, well, where's the child? Where's the boy?
When do you get a chance?
Where's Kevin in that?
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that I'm learning to deal with is that's why I don't ask for help. The positives in it is that I'm gonna make it happen. Because think about being a man and your daughter or anybody comes up to you and has a dilemma. What you gonna say? Oh, I'm gonna make it happen. Right. So if you notice anything, failing or not, I'm gonna make it happen. So it did help me overcome my fear of failure because it's like, well, it is what it is.
Right.
But I don't ask for help because as a grown man raising kids, a lot of times you have that in you. You got to make it happen.
Right.
And so I do find that accepting love from people, not like romantic love, that's easy, but like just genuine man-to-man love, that brings me to an emotion. I'll find myself like tearing up or things like that. And just simple things like a person calling me or inviting me to their birthday party who I didn't know was even caring about me. It's like it'll bring me to an emotional state. And recently, I realized that I felt that. And I think maybe in the past I would like just put it away. But as I'm growing as a man, it's like, no, I got to deal with this. Let me sit with this. Why is this bringing this little frog in my throat?
Right.
And so, it's something that stayed dormant until I had to jump out on my own. And so as a corporate guy, now I'm an overachiever because I got to make it happen. I just got to make it happen because I grew up saying, one day I'm going to have kids. I don't have a mom. I don't have a dad. My grandmother's twice my, she's 50 or she was 70 at the time, so she's probably not gonna be here. I don't have anybody. Right. So if I have kids, they have nothing. So I gotta make everything on my own. This is stage one. Right. And so there is no way, it all starts with me. Knowing that I'm an overachiever in the corporate world. I gotta get to the highest point because I have to provide for my family eventually. And this is before I had a family. I opened what was called a You Promise account at 16 years old, right when I got my license, because on the gas pump, it was like, 6 cents per gallon goes to your child's college fund. And knowing that I didn't have anything, no grandparents, anything with my kids to fall back on before I had kids. I didn't have kids till I was 30. Right. I got a You Promise account because I said, well, at least it'll be 15 years or 6 cents a gallon. I mean, I get 20 gallons, did the math right there and opened up a You Promise account for my kids that I didn't even have yet because of the fear. Because now that I'm older, I realize it was the fear of having a child with nobody and nothing for them to fall back on. So that means that there's a different level where I did experience. Remember we were talking about the virus? Yes. There was the trigger. Oh, wait a minute. I'm fearful because I was ingesting at 7, 8, 9. I got nobody to fall back on. So by the time I was 16, click. it came out.
Right.
And then by the time I was 33, 34, or by the time I walked away from corporate America, a grown man said, hey man, I appreciate you. Ooh, right? Click.
Yeah.
Right? Now the viruses are all out. And now I gotta have, something to clean that up or defragment.
I like how you're able to consciously recognize that part of that feeling that you're feeling is directly related to an experience you had as a child. Because most people can't even conceptualize when you talk about that virus that was planted in you back then. Most people can't even conceptualize what that is. But you have amazingly have been able to just tap into that and say, hey, I feel it. I related to this time in my life where something was kind of missing, or I put something in the back of my mind, and now you're able to really address it. So that's an amazing coping mechanism.
Well, I don't want to give myself too much credit, because identifying and actually actively being able to work on it is different. There are plenty of times, because now at my age, life is moving.
Yeah.
So you have to stop.
Sure.
And that means to address it means a huge sacrifice, and I still don't have anybody to fall back on.
Right.
And so there's another fear of stopping and addressing. What is this going to do to me? Is this going to stop my ability to move forward in life? Is this going to cripple me? Is this? So it's kind of like, I'm going to address it a little bit, but not all the way. So I can't give myself full credit, even though I would love to be like, yes, awesome. I'm sure I'm still packing things away out of fear that it could. I mean, think about it. Genetically speaking, my mom is schizophrenic. That's genetics. So that's in there.
Yeah.
My dad's an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic at 18. So that's in there. So what if I open that box all the way up?
Did you?
Do I hit the bottom?
Did you have those experiences?
No, I haven't. But again, coping.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And so, man, this is interesting. So it's like you're like in a controlled fear conundrum.
Yeah.
Like it's really interesting. I've actually never heard a story like this. Like, and I'm pretty sure that there's people that can relate to who feel like they don't have nobody to fall back on, because people don't understand their complete backstory. Because you would just make assumptions that you got somebody. And then the more, and shout out to Chris Singleton, he said something, man, you don't know their stance behind their story. So you got to learn their story so you can understand their stance, right? And I think that's kind of relates to what you said. It's like the more I'm hearing, like, So even when you bring your daughter around and you hella protective, it's not that you're just protected from a father. It's like, that's all I got. Yeah. It's the all I got energy too. That's like down, like that's at the core of your subconscious of why you're doing. So so as you're dealing with this, even up to this day, what was a moment that said, that was kind of to you in your own way, a rites of passage moment to say, okay, I'm not a boy no more. I'm official all the way a man now. Like, what was that experience for you to let that everything click? Not I did a man thing, or not the baby, being parents to adults when you was a child, but something that said, in every aspect of my life, I feel like as if now I'm a man.
I would have to say when I had my daughter.
How old were you had your daughter?
30.
30.
So at 30 years old, I am a regional director traveling all around. I am a leader of men. So, I have tons of people who report to me. I'm talking to CEOs, and all that felt good, right? So that's like, all right, I accomplished that. Right. Graduated from college, so I accomplished all these things.
Checks that getting that done box.
Checking all those boxes. Yeah. And then I had my daughter, and as a daughter, it clicked like, oh, okay, this is yours, right? It's yours. You can't mess this up. Right. And so I would have to say maybe a year or two after that, after messing some stuff up, after not knowing what was going on and realizing that you have to accept the fact that you're not going to be perfect in everything. And this was, to me, God's way of putting something in front of me and being like, no, there's no manual. You can't really Google this. You can't just figure this thing out. You have to go with it and make that change. And so having my daughter and realizing that I have to be what it is that I brought her into this world for her to experience. I have to be that, realizing that I have to be the man that my dad was not able to be. And I don't blame him, but he's not able to be for me. I also kind of have to step in as a granddad in these levels. It made me quickly look at all of the foolishness that I was doing in my life and what was the end trajectory gonna be? Yeah. And so I had to drop my childish things as much as I could consciously understand, and then take the cognitive mindset of, all right, no. I have to take these steps whether I like it or not. And I think that to me is where you become that man, when you realize there are things that you're going to do whether you like it or not. And your feelings, they matter, but what matters is your responsibilities more than anything.
Come on, man. And I always say, it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. I tell people all the time, sometimes I got me, but man, she did, and he, and I was like, listen to me. I'm not going back and forth on who fault it was.
It don't matter.
And do they have your last name? Do you take care of it? Like, or did you make an agreement? Like, did you make a commitment? Then it's your responsibility to figure it out, right? Everything's figure outable. Like, so I want us, because man, you so rich as a parent. You so rich as somebody who was taking care of your own parents from a kid and your grandparents. So, what happened with your baby mother in the sense that am I listening to you? You're so rich with understanding relationships and support people, whether they got schizophrenia, whether they're alcoholic, whether they're old, whether they're in the hood, whether they're in the suburbs. So how did that dynamic work or didn't work when your personal relationship life, when it came to,
So there's the error, right? There's where I don't have the answer, but I have the answer for you. The thing is that I would say that when you are young, so we're gonna go back to the down low. So everybody knows about trauma bonds and things like that. And when I look at that situation, she has the same experience, but not because of anything but like what she went through. So her experience that she went through is that she didn't know who her dad was. Her mother got into it when she was really young. So she was out on her own at 16 years old fighting. I was at 13 years old being a grown man. So we're both now living a life that doesn't have any support and so on and so forth. So we met in high school, and just throughout high school, just kind of being around and things like that, you know what I'm saying? It just naturally kind of seemed like it fit. And of course, high school love is high school love. So you try to do that. Sure. Now we go back to the don't want to quit. And then we go to the man thing without a man telling me, hey, wait a minute, you really need to think about this long term. I have nobody to tell me this.
Because you're like 20, what are you about, 25, 26?
At the time?
At the time.
My daughter, or when me and her started dating?
When you and her started
dating.
dating.
High school. We started dating in high school. We stopped. We was off and on throughout college.
Yeah, that was when you stopped, when you came
kind of
back.
Locked in, maybe about 28 years old. So I have no man to say, hey, now this is real. Right? So now it's just familiarity. And I'm going into my life where it's like I've checked the boxes, and the next box to check is this. Like, wait, this is something I need to do. My aunties were all married, long-term, everybody. So this is what I saw is quality married couples. So it's like, well, do I go out here and just go find something out the streets, or do I just take this person who's kind of been with me? Now, what was I dealing with? I never had anybody to ride for me, not because they weren't riding for me, it's just circumstances. So I then she's been with me this long, this, that, and let's go ahead and figure this thing out. And so, of course, then we trauma bond because she has her issues to deal with. I got my issues to deal with. And then eventually it's like, all right, well, she didn't think she could have kids. And then we ended up with this one. So it was like this miracle thing, which is wonderful. Then we just decide all right, cool, we're going to try to figure this thing out. And then click. So the clicks that were in me, those clicks. Because guess what? That didn't work. She saw her mom not have healthy relationships. I have a grandmother who taught me to stop, learn, listen. So now that's considered shutting down for her. So now we can't do these communication, blah, 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 blah. That shuts me down because I don't communicate like this. So when you're yelling, it's this. Then when you get a man to an emotional state, right? Now you bring him to the ego state of a child. So now I'm no longer a man operating with you. I'm operating as a boy. Failure waiting to happen because I can't stay in my man. I'm going to go to boy because it's dominant. This thing that I'm not accustomed to brings you what? When you don't really know, you kind of go back to more of a fetal or a childlike position. So now I'm a boy. And so now I'm a boy with grown man responsibilities, not able to do that. I'm not able to sit her in a corner or sit her down and be like, hey, that's because all of these things that I didn't have, or I didn't have anybody to tell me, I am now flailing around, not as a man, but as a boy. So when you see the big hole in me, where it's like, oh, I see you got this together, real estate, this, that, wait.
What about this?
What's going on here? I don't see a daughter. What is that? that was the era where it's like, well, there was where I wasn't being fed. I wasn't around anybody except for my uncles and things like that. But that relationship is so far. They're really close to me, and I love my uncle that is closest to me. But he was really the type of person that kind of sat back and would speak when he needed to speak. And because we didn't live in the same house, because like literally I'm in the suburbs, they're in the city, you know, like he would only hear things through the phone conversations, and he has to get enough phone conversations to know there's a problem. Then he shows up.
So now we're kind of navigating the space of, okay, I'm dealing with the uncle. Okay, I'm here. I see the gap. I'm aware of the gap. I'm convicted to be my king. Now I want to transition there. Now that you got your daughter, she's at the age. Now that you went through that experience, now you still got to deal with your daughter's mother. You still got to deal with your uncles. You still got to deal with your aunts. What does kingship for you look like?
So kingship for me looks like mastering a couple of different things. To be comfortable and figuring out, that's a major thing. That dynamic, because my kingdom is my last name, right? It has to continue through. So I have to write the turbulence in that ship, right? I just have to write the turbulence in that ship.
So for you, it's like going back and kind of cleaning out some things.
Right, I have to clean those things up, and then I have to address those viruses that have been triggered recently. And they all were triggered when I walked away from corporate, right? So I, for some reason, don't have the answer, but I, for some reason, was carrying a lot of people, right? And again, it's whatever, people pleasing, whatever that may be. And I'm sure that was feeding whatever hole that was there. When I made the decision to say, you know what, God has a bigger purpose for me. I've always known I'm supposed to speak to young people, empower young people in the corporate space and bring them forward, you know, to uplift them. I always knew it, but I never took it. When I stepped away was when those were the major triggers, and it started to see all of these things. So kingship to me is looking at those major aspects of your life, cleaning them up, and having your house in order, right? And so the relationship building that I was talking about, that's important. If you ever notice me in a room, if you sit with me at a table and we get cool, you'll see I'm silly, I'll keep you laughing, gut busting, this, that, and the other. But then I'm weird, because then you'll see me in a big group and I'll be by myself. Right? But that's because I don't know. I can't let you close because, you know, I open my heart up, and then, of course, the fear of abandonment. So obviously now I have to deal with some kind of abandonment issues. So to be a king, you got to look at these things and at least have something or someone are working on all of those. You might not have to have everything done, because obviously life's going to be that way. But the major things that are going to kind of stop you from growing, I think that's where I elevate to that. So if I could say, oh, am I a king? There's things that now that I have a different group of people around that I would say, no, I'm graduating to that. You know, I might be a prince, but there is a evil king sitting on my throne, and I gotta behead him, right? And I can't. I can only be a prince until I chop the head of that evil king off, and then I can take my rightful place.
Mr. Great Day.
That's me.
Talk to me about Mr.
Great Day.
Is that in that Prince era? Is that in the corporate? Is it when you was corporate?
Yeah. So Mr. Great Day, it came about, and again, it was just one of those things that when I was thinking about what am I going to do as far as Kevin Ferguson, you got to kind of morph. And in the corporate world, I worked in sales, and in sales, a lot of times, mentally, you're just in a space where, you're going to have a bad day, and you're going to have a bad day. You might get on paperwork and you're on a written, and tomorrow, if you don't get enough enrollments or whatever it may be, you might lose your job. So I have 30 something people are walking in every day, with 10 of them maybe on paperwork. And so I developed this thing to talk to their psyche. And you guys will hear me talk a lot about psyche. Now, keep in mind, mom, so I always was interested in this. So I was like, I would walk in and be like, hey, what's going on, Kevin? It's a great day. And they'd be like, it's a great day. It is a great day. And then, every single day I walk in, it's a great day. And then eventually everybody would start to look at me and say, it's a great day. It's a great day. It's a great day. So it's this concept of self-talk, right? So a lot of people hate when I say it. And I just tell them that you got something ugly sitting here. Just say it back. Because your self-talk will line up with it's a great day.
Right,
And I say it's a great day. It's a great day. It's always a great day. It's a great day. It's always a great day. So if I say it's a great day to you, your brain's going to say either it's a great day back or it's always a great day. I want your self-talk to begin to say it's always a great day. Because if you can get that in here, you can now start manifesting.
Exactly.
Right? That's what you start to do. So the Mr. Great Day came in because there was a security guard at the front. And he used to come in and be like, hey, it's Mr. Great Day. Right? And so I was like, oh, okay.
I love it.
It's Mr. Great Day. So now fast forward to this time in my life. And in this time in my life where it's like, all right, who are you as a person who speaks to young people? You know, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm Mr. Great Day. And Mr. Great Day leads into the question. Okay, so Mr. Great Day. Now I can talk to people about it. But then my tagline of It's a Great Day is really more than just trying to brand a tagline. It's really speaking to the psyche of people, which also comes back to when I was a kid. And remember, in the suburbs, hey, I remember the feeling. The feeling was, it feels so good. But that's because you look people in the eyes, they say, hi. Hey, hi. So if I can get the world to start being like, hey, it's a great day, it's always a great day. A lot of times the person at the register will say, well, have a great day. Right? You hear me enough, they'll say, it's a great day. You're like, it's always a great day. Why? Just because you remember that little YouTube that you saw, right? And so now you're saying it back. And so now love is going back and forth and you can create the environment of happiness within more people. And I'm hoping that just takes fire and infects people. So that's where Mr. Great Day came from. And it's a great day.
And listen, and it is a great day.
It's
that
always
is a great segue to a great episode of Kevin Ferguson, man. Father, leader, speaker, entrepreneur, real estate investor. Man, this guy is got the juice. Go follow him, man. We're going to have it at our lower third, man. Tap in with us, man.
Mr. Great Day.
There's Mr. Great Day.
Mr. Great Day.
Man, taking over the world. And we appreciate having you, bro.
Thank you, sir.
It was a blessing, man. Thanks for coming through, man.
All right, brother.
And we'll catch you guys on the next one. We out.